Hey guys, welcome to the review of the Nature's Generator Powerhouse. This is the gold package, so it has 2 solar panels in addition to the generator. The beginning of this video is going to be more of an unboxing, so I'd say like maybe the first 20-ish minutes, maybe more, it's going to be me just going over the ports and manuals and unboxing certain things that came with it. And then the second half is going to be me testing it and using it. So that's going to be the gist of this video. I hope you enjoy it, and I also want to thank Greg at Nature's Generator for giving me this unit to review. And just to be clear with you guys, Greg sent me this in exchange for a review and some other informational articles on my website and some follow-up videos, so this is not going to be the only review. Another thing is that I didn't have any appliances that would work with 7200 watts or anything around there. So the most power I think I used was with a larger space heater, so around 1.2 kilowatts. So that's about it. I'm gonna have to do more testing and find ways to get more out of these reviews, because this system can really output way more power than I was capable of plugging into it. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you like it. Alright, so getting this delivered, it was quite a process. It's so heavy, you can see that it's wrapped with the solar panels, and this is just the base version, but then you'll see the other side and how it's assembled. You have to basically take it apart with a wrench or whatever you have. These are the solar panels. And then this is us trying to get the battery inside. It was quite a process. Alright guys, so this is the first thing that I'm unboxing from the Nature's Generator Powerhouse. It looks like we just have some cables in here, and these are some thick cables. This is one giant cable. I'm gonna try and find the gauge here. So it says 2x12 gauge, 3.31 millimeters squared. Interesting. I've never seen a 2x12 gauge wire. So here we have the MC4 cable. This is for the solar panel connections, and what I'm assuming is that I'll have to connect the 2 solar panels, the giant 400 watt panels, together, and then this connects to the cable that combines the 2 panels, and then this goes into the generator. And you can see there's 2 separate there's 3 connections here, and then there's one plug here that I've never seen this before. I don't know if this is just a blank plug or if it's some sort of grounding, but there's no metal on this third one. So we have 3 connections here. This is called a power pole pack. This is new to me, but I've dealt with Anderson power poles before, but this clearly is a wire capable of a lot more power and a lot better transfer of energy, because it's such a big cable. And the higher the volts and the less amps that are coming through the solar panels to the battery, the less heat is generated. The more, this all has to do with amps. Amps generate the heat. The volts, if they create any heat, it's minimal compared to amps. So this is really cool, but I'll have to check it out, see how it connects, and get this all unboxed and overviewed. I don't know why I brought this thing down here, but it was the quietest space in the house. This barely fits in the office, and this is not the battery. The battery's just way heavier. I barely got this down here. It's 115 pounds with everything. I don't know if there's other stuff in it, but this is the top portion of the generator where the actual power comes from, and the battery's here. This top portion is what produces all the outlets and power. This thing's 115 pounds roughly, maybe a little lighter. This is maybe 300 pounds. So there's no way I'm bringing that down here, but I'm gonna unbox this, and maybe there's other stuff in it, but I want to show you what it looks like and take it out and actually go over the ports in this little manual here, this big manual. All right, well, it comes with the same manual probably that we printed. Matrix generator. They just gave me 2 of them. All right, looks like there's a little more in here. All right, other than the manual, we have more of the accessories. We have the wind turbine, and we have the different power transfer kits. We also have bags. They have bags, MC4 adapter or branch connectors. Next here is their where to reach, and if you want to reach out to them with a review or a feedback. You have their email, phone number, Instagram, Facebook. All right, and then I believe that this is just an additional sort of pamphlet showing the different products that they sell in addition to whatever you get. And I think for the Powerhouse specifically, probably the one thing that you would add on if you already have solar panels, there's 2. It's probably one of the power transfer kits if you're connecting it to your home, cabin or whatnot, and then possibly the wind turbines. And the cool thing about these that I didn't really just think about, even though it's kind of common sense once you realize it, it's like solar will charge obviously when the sun's out, but when the sun's down, the wind will take care of charging the battery at night. And I just never really put that into my head. So combining solar and wind, if you can, is actually a much more, I would say, consistent form of getting power into your battery. This is if you're using this solar generator frequently, you need that charge all the time. So that's all the paperwork. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna have to take this out, so I'll probably pause the video. Before that, I'm just gonna see if there's any other stuff on the sides. You have this giant power cable, and it looks like this is a similar size cable to the previous box that I undid. So this is 3 by 2.08 millimeters squared, and it says 14 gauge. So is it a 3 by 14 gauge? It definitely feels like it. I can't confirm that, but it's huge. All right, guys, I got this thing out, and wow, it's huge. And this is where all the action is on this side. Got all the ports and such. You have these 4 different AC ports. This one and this one are the same. This one and this one are the same. So on the right, this one has everything is the same except for this little side insert. 3600 watts total max. So I'm assuming that's both of these combined cannot go over 3600. The same with the one on the right. Now we have even bigger ones down here, and I'm sure there's labels below, but I'm not going to take this out of the styrofoam. I'll just tell you guys from the manual. Got the power switch for the AC output on the upper right. Another massive, this is a 240 volt, so this is 7200 watts max total. Looks like that one is the big boy. This is the one that's really going to produce power. Please turn off main power and AC output switches while not in use. That's because the inverter that converts the battery's DC energy into AC, it has to convert it to give you power to your house or to your AC ports, and you lose power. It consumes power when it converts DC to AC. AC output shuts down when charging by AC input. So you cannot charge by AC and output by AC. So we have line 1 and line 2. So we have line 1 on the left is the 15 amp outlet, so 120 volts, 15 amps, and now this unique one with the little additional prong on that left side of the port, 20 amps. So you can get more amps out of this one. Same idea here, exact same here, line 1 and line 2. And we have these AC ports. So these are the big ones. This first one here, and I believe this is the same. Yep, line 1 and line 2, line 1, line 2, exactly the same. They're 30 amp outlets, so 120 volts, 30 amps. So that's a 10 amp boost from that powerful AC port, and a twice the amount of power from just the standard AC port. Now we have the smaller but more powerful 240 volt, 30 amp outlet, 7200 watts max. Here's the DC side, as well as the main power switch right here. The solar input, so that giant cable that I recently showed you guys in that one box definitely goes into here. We have the wind input, which actually takes the same style of cable. We have the wind input. We have 1,000 watts of wind power instead of the 2,000 watts solar up here. And I don't know a lot about wind. I've never tested wind power. I don't know how many wind turbines you would need to produce that amount of power, but you have that capability if you need it. DC outputs, 120 watts max. We have then 12 volt. This is typical on solar generators, even smaller ones. A 48 volt output, and I don't think I've ever seen that before. The massive 48 volt barrel port. It's for their security camera system. Interesting. I didn't get that, but I did see that on their website. Very interesting. And this port is always live, so definitely have a little hazard warning there. That is something to be aware of. 4 quick charge 3.0. Then we have a type C. Now we have the LCD display, the button that's underneath the screen. So it'll light up the LCD display for 30 seconds. Keep pressing, it will show consequential information on the LCD display. We have the AC charge light. Red means charging, green means charged. I like how that it's just simple and straightforward. That's the front side, and there's a whole back side, so I'll have to adjust for that. So let me get into that and move this around. By the way, I wanted to highlight the sides because I didn't get to that at all, but each side of this power unit has these folding metal handles. So they fold it all the way in, and then if you need to lift it, they have 2 of them. So for one person on each side, they have these, and nice and sturdy. Exactly what you need for something as heavy as this. All right, now here, so you connect to the battery via this. And you can see at the bottom, it says battery to generator, generator battery. This is where you connect everything, and it has this cord here. So after undoing it, you get this sort of deal, and then some giant metal prongs, so it connects to the battery. And then to the right here, I do need a screwdriver to get this out. I don't have one handy, but you can see it says expansion in, so I'm assuming that's for additional batteries, and let me just confirm it is. So daisy chain connector, it connects Nature's Generator, Powerhouse, Power Pod, sold separately. That's the additional battery that you could get to just have more battery storage, and you would connect it via here by undoing the screw and then just using the proper connectors. I don't have the Power Pod, but you can get it, and I believe it doubles the battery capacity. So that's going to be pretty heavy. However, you're going to get a huge amount of battery capacity to run your appliances off grid for twice the amount of time. So that is that. And then lastly, at the bottom here, I'll zoom in just a bit. Looks like this is for grounding. Let me double check. Yeah, this is the grounding terminal to ground Nature's Generator Powerhouse. Some electrical devices might require grounding before use. So this is definitely important to research and I mean, obviously, when you're dealing with something as powerful as this entire system, it's definitely important to talk to or consult some electrician, someone who knows this stuff, so you avoid risk of injury, shock. If you don't ground it, there could be quite a big risk there. So there you go. That's the grounding connection. All right, and then here I'm just getting the wrapping paper off the battery portion. This is the lead acid battery, sealed lead acid. Got handles and these little latches. And you can see the top here is where you place the module with all the ports. It has all these little divots. You can see the wheels, they're locking wheels, so you press down to lock them. They're pretty sturdy, and they move it around pretty well. These were on each side. I don't know if you're supposed to, and so the screws came like that. Could have just been mishandled, but this is the other side. I guess this is just used to keep it in place, and you could maybe use this like for yourself, but I'm not using them. Then you have the giant cable that connects to the top portion. There's my cat. Just insanely curious. Alright, and then here you can see I'm taking the power module and putting it on here. I don't recommend doing it by yourself. It was just, this is basically all I could do at this point. So it locks in place, and you could clearly feel it once you put it on. And now I'm just locking the latches. Alright, and then next here we have the back side, and this is where you connect the giant cable. Then you pull out that little safety placement holder, and then yeah, you'll hear it connect in a second. Alright, and then this is the front, and I turned the main power on, or I think it was already on, but yeah, you got the light on. There's a LCD screen with all the different data points, and I'm turning the AC port on. AC section makes that little noise, and then the screen makes a noise as well. And this is just the inverter making the noise. It eventually goes back down to nothing if you're not drawing any power. But yeah, it has a consistent 60 to 65 watt load just for the inverter. Here I'm getting the solar panel set up in this temporary solution. They're really pretty heavy panels. They're as tall as me. I just don't want them to slide, so I'm trying to figure out ways to make sure it doesn't slide. But you'll eventually see I have to add this pallet to the bench because the panels are too wide for this bench. I think they're like 4 feet wide. And then, yeah, I'm just leaning them against each other, and then eventually you're going to see me place the wood board underneath one of the panels just to secure them, at least for now. Alright, now this is the last part of the setup. Just getting a board in front of this one. Then I'm going to weigh it down with this block.
Alright, so here's the final setup I have so far. Now the bench was too small for the panels, and I wasn't anticipating that, but I just made some adjustments here. So I used the the whatever you call that, the wooden crate thing, it actually got shipped in the whole system, and I just put it as a backing so I could extend the bench out, so to speak, in a little bit, by a few feet, and then they can rest next to each other. And this one was sliding on the mat that I put under it, like that one. So took the mat out, threw it over there, and then I have a wood plank that was over here and put it down with this rock so the panel wouldn't slide out if there's any wind. And obviously, once again, this is temporary, not a final destination for these. But you could see one's at a slightly more tilted angle, the closer one than the other. But for the most part, they're pretty similar. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and connect the, I believe it's a series connection. I'm gonna connect the two ends here. There's MC4 connectors, one on each end of the panel. Gonna connect these ones to each other, and then I'm gonna connect the outside and the other outside one to the extension cable that I'll show you in a sec. Got not that much sun at all, but we're gonna try and just see what we can get with these two panels out. Now I undid the zip ties that were connected to all the or each connector on each panel, and so we need to connect these two together, and then the outside will connect to the solar panel connection. Out here you can see the different setup. It says connect positive to negative in the middle, and then the positive and negative on the outsides will go to the main cable right here. So we're gonna go ahead and connect these together right now. So these two, just want to make sure that this one's positive. Yep, this one is negative. There's no red on it, so connect these and they're good. And now the outside will connect in a sec. Just gotta throw on my gloves here and then we'll get it going. All right, so we got just MC4. We're gonna connect the two ends on the two ones I haven't connected yet. All right. So we got this outside one here. This is a negative. Connect to the positive. And hear the click. There you go. There we go. All right. So that one didn't click in place as much, but it's all connected. So now we just need to connect it to the generator. All right, so we have the main power here. I'm just gonna turn it on. Makes the sound, and now we're checking the battery. Definitely needs recharging. It's at 46 volts. This is about half the battery, so 50% battery. Usually it takes up that second quarter right there. So we're gonna go ahead and charge it, see what it does. I have the cable here. It has that like sort of Anderson look with the extra prong. Solar input right here, pretty self-explanatory. And then we're just gonna put it in, and it should probably just give us a good click. And let's see what happens here. So you can see the battery indicator is starting to just show that it's recharging, and it shows the input in watts. Now, I mean, it says 2 watts now. It's because it's really cloudy outside. And plus the panels, I don't even know where the sun is, to be honest, because it's like 3 something, so it's probably away from the sun. So we're getting 0 watts, but it's gonna change depending on cloud cover and all that. All right, so we just got the solar panels back out. It's about 9 in the morning in December. Sun looks decent. There's not too many clouds. So let's see how much solar we get. All right, so 54 right off the bat.
just jumped to 81, and that already makes it higher than the previous test yesterday. It's my crazy cat. And it's around the same time we're just getting another reading, and getting a different angle here. So it looks like the power's fluctuating a bit. Hasn't been consistent. Sometimes goes back to 0, but it's starting to look more consistent around 50s, which isn't terrible considering that the trees are still in the way of the sun and it's not that clear of a sky. And the angle isn't 100% accurate to where the sun's at. Not bad. Not great, not bad. And part of the reason is you could see this tree was in the way. I took this right after filming that last bit. You can see this just branches right there. So we're getting about 60 watts maximum right now into the generator. And it makes sense. It's really cold out. It's about 6 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can see the sun's like right behind that tree. A few trees still rising. Once it gets up a little, it'll be fine. One thing here has to do with this bag is. So here the bag sound was super loud on on the recording, so I had to lower it. But the bag was obstructing the panel, at least that one that I'm peeling off right now. So that could have been a small reduction of power. So I just want to make sure I get as much as I can to these panels in terms of sunlight. The angle towards the sun, I don't know if you can. The panels are angled a little to the right of where the sun's coming up. They're angled more like that way to the right, and the sun's coming a little to the left. So that actually affects it more than you'd think. Even to me, after doing these tests, I realize how much the angle is important, but I'm sure we'll get a nice kick up in power relatively soon here once the sun gets above the trees. Alright, so it's only been about like 10 minutes since that first test where we were getting like 65 watts or around 60 watts maximum, and now it's fluctuating. I think I saw it even closer to 100 like just before I turned it on. Yeah, now we're at 105. Looks like it's going up and down, but the range is a lot less, so it's more consistent sunlight. It's 104 so far. Plus you could see here it has the little solar icon, which is helpful. And here I fast forward it about 4 times the speed because I just wanted to show you how it slowly is going up in general. See it jumps down a little and then you'll see it picks back up. So this has been pretty consistent since that first test at 9 a.m. that it goes down a bit, goes up a little higher than it did before, and reaches its new height as the sun continues to get in a prime position. Alright, so it's about 10 a.m. It's been about an hour, and now we're seeing over 300 watts. It's really good to see. The sun's definitely a lot brighter. Pretty clear skies, not 100%, but yeah, it's good to see. So looking outside, it's sun is a lot better. High in the sky, not that much in the way. And the panels seem to be at a pretty good angle for this the height of the sun, so I think that I'm gonna get some good amount of power. All right, let's see how we're doing here. Looks like we got 260, 80, so about the same as before. Not bad. It's not the best, but Still a decent amount of power. All right, so it's the same day, and now it's just about 1 o'clock. Looks like there's not as much sunlight. Looks like it got a lot of cloudier. And it looks like we're bringing in very little power, which is understandable. The sun definitely shifted position a lot, and with the cloud cover, it's not easy to replicate the like 300 and whatnot watts earlier. So looks like we're at like 50 or something, and then it's going back and forth. All right, so I'm disconnecting the panels. You could tell that the reason why they weren't getting much sun as of recent is because the sun literally moved from left to right, and the angle is way off to the panels. Panels are facing that way, the sun is that way. So, and then you got all the trees and branches. So I'm gonna disconnect these and call it a day. I want to share what I used to disconnect the MC4s that I had trouble disconnecting with my bare hands. Like it seems like these are not supposed to be connected and disconnected as often as I'm doing for this review. I'm sure that there's a tool that is sold to help get these ones disconnected, but I found this little, it's like a gardening thing you put in the garden, celery, there we go. But this actually fits perfectly into the connectors. Like this one is a different one because I could just pinch easily, and I'm gonna disconnect that one right there. However, the other ones are a lot more complicated because they have a cover on them or a little plastic piece right here, so I can't pinch it. I tried so hard to do this, and it's not going to budge. I saw some videos of people like just squeezing it, but I know that this plastic piece is a lot thinner, so it's not going to bend as easy as some of these other people are showing on YouTube. So I have this little tool, and I'm not recommending this. I'm just saying this is what I use. But I mean, I was in a pinch and I needed to get it out, but this metal piece, both of these fit pretty well in the gap that needs to be squeezed for them to be released.
So, this one over there, and I really just have to push down and in.
And then I can get it out. And this was a day saver for me. I didn't have any idea how to do this. So that's my little trick. I just thought I'd share it. And yeah, so I'm gonna get these disconnected and packed away. All right, now we're gonna do AC charging. And I'm just loosening or unlocking the wheels. The locks are only on those two wheels. The other ones do not have them. And we're gonna go ahead and show you the AC charge port, which is that I'll be pointing to in a sec. It's a black port right there. It says AC input. It's about a 5 or 6 foot long cable. Let's see how loud it is and how much power it inputs. Here we go. All right, so that just turned red. So we're bringing in about 1,000 watts. A lot of power. You can see on the screen here, zoom in, the battery. You can see that has that little charging symbol. Shows you the voltage, and the battery indicator is continuously moving in that half circle. And it's bringing in 960 watts. Looks like that's it. Yeah, so this is straight from the wall. The charger is right here. Got a 6-foot long cable. And this is one of the few power stations that has the direct cable without an adapter. I believe the adapter steps it down. So the EcoFlow River is the other one I have that doesn't have like a brick adapter for AC charging. So that one charges very fast for its size. So yeah, this one's not that much different. Obviously, it brings in more power, but this thing's huge. So relatively speaking, I'm not sure the times off the top of my head of how fast this will recharge the generator, but obviously the main purpose is to try and find a way to recharge it from solar or wind. But if you need to charge it from AC just to have it ready, then this will be a good backup just to have this battery charged. We have the fridge hooked up to an extension cord, and we're gonna go ahead and turn it on and then turn the AC output on, and then we're gonna see what it can do with this fridge. I think it's an Energy Star fridge, relatively new, so let's plug her in. Just gonna put in the normal AC port. All right. And it has a decent battery. We just recharged it. And you can see that it's clearly on. I mean, this thing doesn't take a lot of power, at least at this moment. It's not chilling out. But you can leave the doors open for a second and see if it kicks in, and we should be able to handle it. Yeah, 2.3 amps at 115 volts. That's nothing. Do you mind if I leave it open? Just for a little. I just want to see if it runs. So now the generator just turned off its fans, which means it doesn't need a lot of power to run the fridge. It's still at 71 watts. Here comes the cat. I have like 3 shots of her already, like just bombarding. I'm sure the door thing will come out soon. Yeah, it's starting to blink. She's a nut. So it ran for probably 8 minutes at hovering around 70 watts. And so I just kept the camera on and I cut this, and soon you'll see it take off a little bit when the compressor turns on. It'll turn on just a little bit here. Yes, 148 watts. 149. All right.
The motor's on now. It's starting to
Yeah, I
shut
could hear the compressor, right? Is that?
off. I'm assuming that's what that is.
So, I mean, this is nothing that this can't handle. I think the highest it went up to is 149. Output load is going down already. So it looks like it's slowly going down until it reaches the temperature it needs. Here I have it at 4 times speed, and you're gonna see that it just continues to slowly go down. I think it reaches maybe, it's already at 115. So basically this is how it goes, and we set a timer for like 10 more minutes, and you'll see in a second how much power it was consuming after that 10 minutes. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes total, and it's running at 127 watts. So someone must have opened either the freezer or fridge to get some ice or something. So the motor must be running in the fridge. Plus, you could see my finger here is pointing to that little tiny LED of the load button. I didn't notice that, but it's showing that it's actually outputting power. Also here we have the extension cord that ran from the fridge, and it's just a short walk around the table, and see it's still using its compressor motor to run. So in this next clip you're going to see my dad having the inverter running and it turns off. So this is completely normal for this type of generator. It doesn't need to have the cooling fans on all the time, just occasionally. Also, we were using a 12 gauge wire. If you ever do something like this with an extension cord for an appliance, make sure the cord has a thick enough gauge to where it's safe to use. This is just a 500 watt space heater, and I just turned it on there. You could hear the inverter running, but soon you'll see what happens. It's slowly picking up. This is after a few minutes, I think like 2 minutes later, and it just turned off and it's still running it. So this is a pretty impressive and silent. Alright, now we're moving up to the bigger space heater because I don't have a lot of appliances to work with here. But this one is much more powerful than the small one that was just on the shot. Alright. And there's Bella. Once again. Just trying to get her out of there. And I'm turning it to the first setting here. So just under 700 watts. And you'll notice here that it turns off the inverter fans right there while I'm looking at the cat. But it's pretty impressive that it's running it with no fans.
Alright, so the fans just turned off. And you can see it was running at like 680 watts, a little less. I'm gonna let that run for a while. Alright, now we're gonna go with the second setting. There's only 2 settings on the heater. Hopefully this will get us to over 1,000 watts. So we're at 657 right now. And turned up. Here we go. Say 12 kilowatts? Oh, 1.2 kilowatts. So 1,200 watts. Wow, that thing is lighting up orange. So the fans in here aren't even running, which is interesting. It's actually really good to see because it doesn't need to be cooled immediately. Yeah, so the generator is completely silent. All the noise is coming from the space heater, and running at 1,200 watts in that area. This is really impressive to me, especially since I've never had this ability with the smaller solar generators I've used. And yeah, so I mean, it's not making a noise. 1,200 watts is a lot of power.
I mean, this is basically the same as a microwave. And you can run a space heater like this and not have a ton of noise. Now, obviously, maybe not obviously, but I'm sure that this will run its cooling fans in a little bit. But it's good to know that it can handle it, at least for the time being, without needing to use any of its cooling modes. Alright, so the battery's low, and you can see that here, that I will need to recharge it in the morning. So I will turn this off and start that recharging process. Alright, so I turned it off, and it's interesting because the power draw, or the load, must have taken the voltage down enough to where it looked like it was going to be low battery, but then once I turned it off, the voltage was able to regain like 4 or 5 volts back, and so now you can see it's probably at like 35-ish%, since half of the wheel is a full battery. So it actually isn't on low battery, but I'll still need to solar recharge this. Also on the screen here, you can see that it says input, grid, solar, and wind. I'm assuming that grid means the AC charging. Solar and wind are pretty obvious, self-explanatory. And then let's see what else we have here. We have the USBs over here that I haven't used these yet. Alright, now I am using them, and I'm going to charge my battery bank that's completely out of battery. I'm using the USB-C, and after a little while I got a maximum of 13 watts of input. And now I'm going to use my electric jump starter. Need to charge that up, and it has a 12 volt connection. So I'm going to charge this, and you'll see I'm also going to charge the power bank through that as well. And it says 0 watts are coming in, but that's not true. See, and you'll see it even says here that there's 12 watts coming in it, not including the jump starter, and it says 0 watts still. Now I'm going to charge these batteries, all of these batteries, with the USB and 12 volt DC section. Alright, so I'm just plugging all of these in. This next one is going to be for my phone. And then this is for the small battery bank. This is for the Jackery. And then that white one is for the Sherpa. It's going into the USB-C. I'm also going to charge the Jackery with its own car charger, just to hopefully enhance the charging speed. Alright, so there's no watts of load, which is odd because of all these things that are being charged. 13 watts on this charger, and on the Jackery 37, not even including the others. So it's not saying that anything's coming out of this generator. Alright, so that does it for the review and testing of the Nature's Generator Powerhouse. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I have a lot more content to eventually make. My dad plans on installing these solar panels in either on or next to the house permanently. And plus, there's a lot more appliances I need to figure out to use with this system, so you guys can see exactly how much power it can really output. It says on paper it has up to 7,200 watts of output, and I need to get you guys something that can use that, especially the 240 volt outlet, which is so rare in solar generators these days. And I'm considering maybe getting my sister some sort of electric 240 volt car charger. She has a Chevy Volt, and so maybe I can get her that and then use it to test and review so you guys can see how this generator works. But anyway, from what I've tested in the solar charging and the wall charging and all of that, I really do like this system. This is the biggest solar generator I've ever owned, and there are some downsides. It's very heavy. It's very hard to install, especially, I mean, you need more than one person, especially to install this. If you're doing a permanent home installation, which this probably would be the best case scenario for, I would really advise to either, if you don't have any friends or family that can help with this, that can really do some heavy lifting, you need to hire some people. No. But other than that, all the ports worked really well. I thought that the LED screen or LCD screen, it was pretty good. It didn't read anything that was under about 100 watts of output, so just be aware of that. And I wasn't able to use the RV ports or the larger circular ports that were still 120 volts. However, whatever I put in the AC outlet worked, and it worked actually so well. And my space heaters, at points, the inverter, the cooling fans turned off because it didn't even need to cool down when it was powering them. I've never had that with the smaller solar generators that I've reviewed. So that was really cool, and that was surprising to see. But then it made sense later. It's a big system, it can handle more. I think the weight in the battery style, it's a sealed lead acid, so it's probably the best lead acid battery out there, and plus it's less expensive. So I mean, this whole system, the one that I got with the 2 solar panels, costs, at least right now, it's about $4,000. And obviously that's expensive, but if you compare it to other systems, I compared it to the EcoFlow Delta Pro, and I also compared it to the 0.0 Energy Titan. Both of those have a lithium based battery, and that has a longer cycle life, so it will last longer. However, sealed lead acid, I'm not exactly sure how many life cycles they have, but if you use it properly, I'm sure that you can get some excellent use out of it, and it would be worth the money to buy something that would be less expensive up front for this system. So this is cheaper than both the Titan and the EcoFlow Delta Pro if you were to include those solar panels, and if you're also taking into consideration the size of the battery. So just keep that in mind. And if you like this review and you like this generator, you think you could use it for whatever backup purposes you may need, then check out the link in the description below, or head to naturesgenerator.com to find the different kits. And you could also run this with wind power, which is extremely rare in the solar generator world, and that allows you to run it at night, or at least charge the battery at night. So all those things in mind. I hope you enjoyed this, and take care.